Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Bowman, Editor-in-Chief of Supply Chain Brain, and I want to welcome you to this presentation on what you can't avoid, you have to manage well, how TENNECO increases the efficiency of global premium freight, presented by Siemens. One quick reminder, there will be an audience question and answer session at the end of the presentation by clicking on that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Now, the effects of COVID-19 are continuing to shape our business environment. Witness the chronic shortage of qualified truck drivers, which is causing freight costs to skyrocket. That's especially evident in special transports, which become critical when supply chain disruptions require rescheduling. While we can't avoid every risk, effective management can minimize the consequences. In response to this challenge, TENNECO introduced its Premium Freight RFQ, or Request for Quotation tool, in 2021, utilizing the cloud-based AX4 platform. This has allowed for the standardization of processes across 4 business units in the U.S. and Europe. In the process, TENNECO has gained visibility into carrier performance, significantly reduced the cost of special transports through digitization, and ensured auditable order processes. So today, we're going to learn how TENNECO's strategic approach and technological advancements are driving efficiencies in global special transports, even in the face of ongoing industry challenges. With that, I want to introduce our speakers for today. Katja Muenster is Integrated Supply Chain Process Manager with TENNECO. Katja works for the company's Clean Air division in Europe, based in Germany. Since her start at TENNECO 20 years ago as a logistics specialist for a JIT plant in Belgium, and throughout a variety of positions, she has gained extensive experience in the automotive supply chain. Hazim Nizam is Portfolio Development Executive with Siemens Digital Industries Software. Hazim has more than 10 years of experience in supply chain and logistics, having held positions in procurement and purchasing, logistics analysis, national account sales, and as supply chain director. Currently, Hazim oversees the Siemens digital logistics portfolio in the Americas zone, focusing on automotive and transportation. With that, I want to pass it over to Katja Muenster for the presentation. Katja, take it away.
Hello, and good morning, good evening. Today, we are going to talk about our Siemens Transportation Management System, AX4, and especially about our Premium Freight RFQ tool we developed within AX4.
Thanks, Katja. And this is the agenda for today's presentation. First, Katja will start out with a brief background about TENNECO and its different business units. Then, the history of TENNECO's rollout of Siemens TMS AX4, why they developed the Premium Freight tool within AX4, the challenges they faced, the benefits of using AX4, and what the future roadmap looks like for TENNECO. So Katja, I will hand it off to you now.
All right, so let's start with a little background about TENNECO. So we are industry-leading Tier 1 automotive supplier with a global scale and over 30 brands such as Monroe, Walker, Clevite, Götze, or Öhlins. We provide mission-critical products and components to a diverse customer base. And we have 4 different business units. Clean Air produces engine emission control and acoustic performance parts, such as truck exhaust systems or turbo bypass catalysts. Powertrain produces engine components for improved efficiency and durability. Their key products are bearings, ignition, sealing and gaskets, or piston rings. Our aftermarket business Drive sells shock absorbers, brakings, or, for instance, sealings. The last division is Performance Solutions that produces parts for that system to be designed for the right experience, such as shock absorbers or system protections. So we have a global footprint with 184 manufacturing plants, 24 distribution centers, 39 engineering and technical facilities across 28 countries all over the world, and we are supported by 65,800 employees worldwide. So how did we start with Siemens Transportation Management System AX4? So in 2018, we designed together with Siemens our own personal or TENNECO transportation management system. Content of the system is transport forecast and planning, transport booking, status update, and truck utilization. In 2019, we implemented the new system within Clean Air Europe and EMEA for pilot plants and pilot carriers, and only on full truckloads. In 2020, we did the rest of the Clean Air Europe and US plants only on full truckloads. And in 2021, we came up with an idea and we designed it together with Siemens to have a premium freight tool with an approval process within the transportation management system. In 2022, we did roll out the tool in Clean Air US and Europe, and the rest of the business unit followed in 2023.
Katja, question for you. How were you guys operating prior to 2018? I'm curious to what systems you guys had in place.
So we didn't really have a transportation management system before 2018. We saw the need, and that's because we went on the market, and Siemens was one of the companies we engaged with, and we started to develop.
Thank you.
All right, what was the status quo before we developed the system? So at that time, whenever premium freight occurred, the requester called or sent an email to a nominated carrier. The nominated carrier came back to us again via mail or via phone with a price and the confirmation he can do the shipment for us. And he physically performed the shipment. We had in some business units a database behind with an approval process. But whether the approval was done or not, the shipment went physically. So it was just a database to capture data. Also, every plant had their own specific premium freight carrier with mostly agreed tariffs. But since 2021, the nominated premium freight carriers, both for road and air, were not able to keep the agreed rates due to capacity constraints. So plants kept using the nominated carriers without knowing if the price is competitive or not. Also, we had different definitions of a premium freight in the different business units.
Katja, what do you label as premium freight?
So at that time, we had different definitions. So one definition was, for instance, that a premium freight is a non-regular air freight, but that's it. So there was no real definition for road or expedited shipments. In other business units, a premium freight was every shipment without an agreed tariff, but there was nothing common at that time. So also what we wanted to have is one tool that captures everything. So from the spot order process to the approval process into the transport order tracking. And now I want to talk a little bit more about what is the status now and why did we develop the premium freight tool in AX4. So now we have a tool that covers, first of all, everything. So we have a spot order process, an approval process, and a transport order tracking. So whenever premium freight occurs, the requester is logging into the transportation management system, creating with a specific premium freight template all the necessary data, such as business unit, mode of transport, shipping location, delivery location, the content of the truck on a packaging level, the shipping time and date, the delivery time and date. So when this data is entered on the next screen, he's now able, based on the data he entered before, what kind of carriers will be shown up and what kind of carriers can be selected. So that means, for instance, road transport or air shipments, we will have a setup in the system of different carriers, because not every road carrier can do a premium air freight shipment, and not every air freight carrier can do a road shipment. And also dependent on the different regions, you have different carriers. So the user can select now out of the list that's popping up multiple carriers, since a RFQ end date, which is very important, that the RFQ ends on time, and with one click submits it to the different carriers that has been selected before. Then the carriers are getting emails with a link. When they click on, they are forwarded directly to the RFQ template. The carrier is able to enter a quote and resubmits it to us. As long as the RFQ is open, the carrier is able to submit multiple offers to us, which sometimes can happen that maybe after 20 or 30 minutes, there's a different solution to a different price he would like to offer to us. So that's easy for him then to click on the same link in the email and submits it to us. When the RFQ ends, the Premium Freight requester is able, with a nicely overview, to compare the different quotes, selects the one on best price, best time, and the service level. And then automatically our approval process is triggered. So we have 4 different approval levels. The first approval level is the PCNL manager of the specific plant. The second one is the plant manager. The third approval is the supply chain director of the specific region. And the last level is the operations director of the specific region.
Do you think it's feasible to have 4 different groups approving a premium shipment?
That's actually a good question. The level of approval depends on the amount of the shipment. So let's say we have a road shipment for $500. After the first approval is done, the shipment is approved. If we have an air freight for, let's say, about 20,000, we really need to follow the 4 steps that the shipment is going to be approved.
So how do you make sure it's approved on time? Because I'm assuming most of these shipments are pretty time critical.
That's true. And this was a big concern while we created the system. We created a mobile app that the approvers can easily approve the shipment, because most of the times the guys will not be at their laptop to see the email with a link to approve. So they will travel, they will be in meetings. So now they have it, the mobile phone they always have with them, right? So then they can easily accept via the mobile phone wherever they are. So when the premium freight is approved, there's an automated email again to the different carriers with refusal or acceptance of the truck. And the carrier that received the nomination needs to follow up the shipment. So first he needs to confirm the shipment, then he should update, I'm there to pick up, I'm in transit, and I completed the shipment. So now really we have all the complete process from the spot order above the approval process towards the transport order tracking in one tool. And also we agreed with all the business units on a common definition. So every special road and air express transport that is not covered by an agreed tariff table is a premium freight and needs to be captured in the AX4 premium freight tool.
So now there is a common definition.
Yes.
Thank you. So Katja, what kind of challenges did you experience creating the premium freight tool within AX4?
Well, you can imagine having 4 different business units working siloed to align on a common process was a bit of a hurdle, I would say, and a bit of a struggle. We had to agree on mandatory fields as each business unit has specific requirements. So in some business units, we need to provide a hazard number, where in other business units, that's not necessary. We have different metric systems in Europe and US, as well as different packaging types. And also with sorry, go ahead.
You update the different metrics and packaging types yourself, or is that something you rely on Siemens for?
No, luckily we do not have to bother Siemens with that. It's all up to our users. We can do all by ourselves, which is really great because we can do it on time. We have it in our hands, and that's great. And we're very flexible with that. Also imagine we have different carriers between US and Europe. and also on business unit level. So this was also, how can we make sure that the right region is seeing the correct carriers and stuff like that. And as already mentioned, the hottest potato we talked about and we needed really to have a good solution was, how can we make sure that the premium freight is approved on time? And as I mentioned before, so we have two different systems how to approve it, either again by an email link that directs the approver to the approval screen, or you do it via the mobile app. And this really helped a lot, and it's working quite well to approve the shipments on time. And the last point was as well, we needed to have a quick and easy access for the carriers to quote, because otherwise we will not get enough quotes back to compare and to get good prices. And I think we managed that also quite well with the email link that carrier receives to be directed quickly and easy to the RFQ template. All right, coming now to the benefits of the tool. So we have now a unified tool and process in all 4 business units. Users can submit easy the RFQ with one click to multiple carriers. Carriers can easily access the RFQ template via an email link and send multiple offers as long as the RFQ is open. For the user, it's easy to compare the multiple offers and take a proper decision based on the best price, delivery time, and the service level. And also they have less workload as carriers receive automated emails whether their quote is accepted or refused. So they do not have to do anything manual anymore. And as already mentioned before, thanks to the mobile app, the approval is quick and easy. And the approval process is now audit confirmed as it triggers the shipment. Without the approval, there's no confirmation to the carrier for the shipment. Carriers are now visible in all business units that have not been visible before. Imagine there were so many plants with different business units, and everybody was working with good premium freight carriers, but they were not known in the other business unit because the connection wasn't there. And now it's visible for everyone, which gives us a lot of good offers and prices back. And after the implementation, we reduced the freight spend over 10% on premium freight.
Is that 10% reduction in freight spend just for your clear air division, or is that across all the TENNECO?
No, it's across all the TENNECO business units.
Okay.
And also, as the data accuracy increased by 70%, our KPIs are more accurate. We can get detailed analysis of the carrier performance. We can give recommendations to the plants which carrier is performing well in which region. The KPIs can easily be provided to the plants and also easily provided to the carriers. Also, the productivity of the users improved by 50% as they're now able to submit the RFQ with one click to multiple carriers. And we also have a cloning function to copy the premium freight. Because unfortunately, more often a premium freight occurs on the same lane. So, and with a copy function, most of the needed data is already available for the user, and it's quick and easy to set up a new RFQ because most of the things are already pre-filled when you copy the premium freight.
Do you plan on enhancing AX4 any further?
Yes. So our plan or our future roadmap for the transportation management system is to implement all the rest of our different modes, such as less truckload, milk runs, hubs, cross docks, as currently we only use the transportation booking tool on the full truckloads. Also, we would like to enhance the mobile app functionality. When we have all the carriers in, we would like to have an automated carrier rating and also to use the route optimization tool. When this is done, the next idea for us, how we could move on with AX4 is to use the system to manage our returnable packaging. Mostly in Europe, we use gitter boxes that we can manage easily the in and out of the gitter boxes and also integrate the chat booking. And also we would like to have a freight payment and invoicing directly and automated out of AX4.
Well, thank you very much, Katja, for that snapshot of how TENNECO has gone about implementing the AX4 solution. Looks like you got some incredible results out of it. So thank you for that. And
Yes.
Hazim, thank you also for your presentation about Siemens. At this point, we're at the panel discussion portion of our presentation, which I get to ask our panelists some questions to further elaborate on this partnership and the benefits of the AX4 solution that TENNECO has realized. Katja, let me start with you. You touched on a few key statistics that TENNECO attributes to the Siemens AX4 platform. Can you elaborate more on the improvement in the KPIs or the key performance indicators that you had previously mentioned?
Surely. So as already mentioned, we saw a reduction of over 10% in the freight spend. And as the data accuracy improved by over 70%, we have now a detailed overview on, for instance, the spend per month by business unit, by plant, and even on lane level. We see the gain versus the highest offer. We also monitor closely how many carriers are invited to the different RFQs, who is good in which region, which carrier gives good prices. Also, the carriers can get a detailed overview of their shipments, like how often they have been invited, how many nominations did they receive, and what is their gap to the best.
Even the most effective solution that you bring into an organization has to somehow integrate with other systems in that organization. So Katja, I'm wondering if you could describe for me what the integration process was between the AX4 system and the TENNECO's overall IT infrastructure.
Sure. On the RFQ tool, we currently link carrier infrastructure. On the transport booking tool, we have a link to our ERP system. We pull delivery note data to show truck utilization. And in addition, with the data from our customer forecasts, AX4 can predict the full truck loads needed for the next couple of weeks, which makes the planning for us much more easy, to be honest.
So you don't have that problem of having optimizing one side on transportation could sub-optimize on the other because they are not properly integrated. Everything seems to function in lockstep in an integrated fashion within the larger organization.
Correct. Yes.
Great, great. Hazim, let me ask you, folks are familiar with Siemens, of course, know it is a global technology company. So where then does AX4 fall in this gigantic Siemens umbrella?
Thanks, Bob. So for those of you not familiar with Siemens, we are a global technology company focusing on industrial automation and software, healthcare, building technology, rail transportation, and energy. And as part of our software division, we have a digital logistics portfolio that's been on the market for over 24 years, providing customers with supply chain and logistics software solutions. Currently, though, we do sit within our digital manufacturing group, and a big reason for that is due to the shift left approach that we preach, which we want to bring supply chain and logistics to the forefront from the product design phase, from the production design phase, rather than after manufacturing has been complete. AX4 specifically is our execution platform used for collaboration with all of the stakeholders across the supply chain, which also includes control tower capabilities. One of the ways the system can be used is as a standalone transportation management system, similar to how TENNECO is using it today.
But Hazim, can you tell me any more, though, about the actual types of companies who is currently using Siemens digital logistics software solutions?
Sure. So we're very strong in the automotive and transportation sector, but we also do cater to aerospace companies, the federal government, retail, consumer products, pharmaceutical, you name it. For those of you familiar with Gartner, the supply chain company, every year they come out with a list of the top 25 global supply chains in the world. This past year, Siemens was ranked 16 out of 25 on that list. But the interesting part is 14 out of those top 25 companies are using Siemens digital logistics software, whether directly or indirectly. And what I mean by that is they can be using it directly, where they purchase the software right from us, or they use it indirectly through logistics service providers or third-party logistics companies, 4PLs, whoever has purchased our software and white labeled it as their own. So even global freight forwarders and carriers are using AX4.
Katja, even the smoothest software implementation ends up facing certain challenges or glitches in the process, just as companies learn how to implement it smoothly. So I'm wondering then, did TENNECO experience any internal hurdles while implementing this AX4 RFQ tool?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, TENNECO plants were a bit reluctant in the beginning. I guess this is the case very often when you would like to implement a new tool or system, right? The users believe, oh, it's a greater workload and another tool, which adds additional complexity for them. Why do we need to implement something new while the old thing is running? So, but I have to say, so we had that hurdle as well. But the more the guys were using the tool, they really saw the benefit of the tool. So less workload, better overview on their spend, easy to handle. It was also kind of eye-opener for them on the cost, as they now see the huge differences and they have a comparison in cost and the huge difference between the different carriers, which they haven't known before because they always went only to one or two of them, right?
Right.
And they even come back to us with feedback for improvements. So which shows me they really use the tool and they're really engaged in it.
So it sounds like it had a positive effect then on the relationship between TENNECO and its premium freight carriers. Would you say that? Is that a fair statement?
That's also a fair statement. I would say the carriers, they don't complain about using a new platform because it came up to our mind, let's say, that when we go back to the carriers, they start complaining that they have to use something else. Yeah. But they also see the benefit, while potentially they're getting more business as they're invited to much more RFQs, especially with plans they have not worked with before. Also, some of them link their system through EDI to AX4 to make it quicker and easier for them as well. And also, they're highly interested in the KPIs I've mentioned before to see their performance and to see where they could improve, why they're not maybe good enough in this region. So I guess it's a benefit for both sides as well.
Yeah. Each vertical, though, has its own unique characteristics and requirements. So how flexible then was the AX4 solution, Katja, in adopting to TENNECO's specific needs or industry-specific regulations, such as, we talked about in the auto industry?
Yeah, I mean, AX was very flexible. We created the RFQ tool from scratch on behalf of our wish list. So there was not a tool in the system before. So we as well did adaptations and enhancement based on the feedback we received from the users while the tool was already running and live. And as already mentioned before, we don't need Siemens to configure any of the master data. We can set up everything by ourselves.
And that's configuring it to meet those unique requirements. That got to be something of a challenge, but it sounds like it went fairly smoothly.
No, that's fine. We had quite a good training from Siemens, and we have super users in different regions and for different business unit level, and this works quite well.
Azim, could you speak to that, about how this particular solution can be tooled or retooled or configured to meet specific vertical requirements?
Definitely. So the Premium Freight tool within AX4 was designed specifically for TENNECO's operations and mainly around their definition of premium freight. The nice thing about AX4 is our goal is to let the customer take control of the configuration, if they have the IT capacity, of course, so that they don't always have to rely on us for that.
Okay. So one subject I don't want us to forget, because it's on everybody's minds these days, is sustainability. The question being, when sustainability becoming such a growing focus in supply chain management, Hazim, how is Siemens integrating environmentally friendly solutions into the AX4 platform?
So when it comes to logistics and transportation, Scope 3 carbon emissions are going to be the main focus. Right now in Europe, there are regulations surrounding Scope 3 emissions, but here in the US, we don't have those yet, even though we know they're coming at some point. So companies are looking to be prepared and get ahead of the curve, especially global companies that are doing business in Europe, because they have to adhere to these emissions regulations. Within our digital logistics portfolio, the way we approach sustainability specific for Scope 3 is in 2 steps. First, it's getting an accurate reading for the present. So we've developed a carbon calculator module specific for Scope 3 that is certified by the GLEC framework as a solution for that. So once you have a handle and you know what your current footprint is, or it could be the future, you might want to estimate what your future carbon footprint would look like. But once you have a handle on that, the second step is to redesign and optimize your supply chain to reduce those emissions. And for some companies, they have, sustainability goals and initiatives that they have to meet, and even more recently, specific for Scope 3. And the good news is that we have solutions for supply chain network design and optimization within our portfolio.
We should mention that Scope 3 emissions are those emissions that are generated by your supply chain partners over which you as a company have no direct control.
Absolutely.
By far the most challenging aspect of the supply chain in order to report and measure and do something about the emissions within a larger supply chain. So thank you for that. Well, Katja, let me ask you, how important is reducing carbon emissions for TENNECO?
It's a very important point to us. We already have proper assignments on the different modes. It will get more and more important to use proper packaging with the highest density to improve the container and truck utilization, as well as to eliminate premium freight as much as we can, and especially on air freight.
Okay, thank you for that. So at this point, I want to bring the audience in. We've been soliciting audience questions throughout this presentation, and indeed we have some questions already here. But even as Katja and Hazim are answering the questions that have already come in, I do encourage the audience to continue to submit your questions through that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. And we'll get to them as many of them as we can, time permitting. Let me start with this one. I think this one's going to go to Katja. Can you go into details about how TENNECO was operating? Tell us more about how it was operating prior to its implementation of the Siemens AX4 platform.
As already said, we didn't have really a transportation management system as such before AX4. The transports, whether it was FTL or premium, we booked it manually via phone or mail. We used the database to capture premium freights, but now, thanks to AX4, we have all in one tool to manage and make the entire process transparent from the RFQ phase through the approval to monitoring the shipment status.
It's very interesting. I mean, TMSs have been around for years, and yet a lot of companies have been reluctant to embrace them until they reach a certain level of sophistication and excellence. And I guess in this case, you finally found one that justified your making the big implementation. So thank you for that. On the other hand, Hazim, if I'm a company and I already have a TMS, what use for AX4 would I have?
Great question. So AX4 can be used as a standalone TMS system, operating how a traditional TMS system would. But sometimes our customers already have a TMS in place, as you can imagine, and sometimes they even have multiple TMSs, and they look for AX4 to be that single source of truth platform that connects all of the different TMS systems to a customer's ERP, along with any other homegrown or external system they use for their supply chain, such as the ones for their supplier management or supplier collaboration software.
Well, Katja, obviously AX4 is not the only game in town when it comes to TMS solutions out there. I wondered so that being the case, what was the vetting process like for TENNECO when you went in search of a TMS provider, and why, for that matter, did you end up going with Siemens and AX4?
Yeah, so we did, as I guess everyone would do, we analyzed tools of different transportation management system providers in terms of our wish list, must-have features, software functionality, integration capabilities, flexibility, and for sure cost. In the end, AX4 was the only tool who covered most of our requirements. And besides the cost, which was, I guess, the biggest factor, I would say, to go with Siemens was for sure the flexibility and the adaptability of the tool.
And Hazim, is AX4 the only logistics software offering from Siemens?
No. So we do have other software that covers other areas of the supply chain. The way we've broken up our portfolio is into individual modules to make it simple to cater to a customer's needs. So under the AX4 platform, we cover purchase order management, which includes supplier collaboration. We have our transportation management system module, the one Katja has been talking about, appointment management and dock scheduling, and then invoicing and freight cost settlement. Some of the other modules covered by the portfolio can include supply chain network visibility, which also includes digital twin capabilities, network planning, design, optimization, warehouse management, rate card management, and then also the carbon calculator module that I had mentioned before.
Clearly, the TMS has come a long way in the many years that it's been available in the marketplace. It's a whole different animal now with regard to the current state of technology. This questioner is referring to Katja having mentioned the need for a common process internally across 4 business units. Question is, was there a need for any communications and process alignment to carriers on the new RFQ response process? And were there any challenges to get carriers on board for that matter?
No, like I already mentioned before, that we didn't have any problems with the carriers at all. So they were really flexible with us on the tool. They use it well. They're really getting good data out of it, like already mentioned. So everything worked fine, I have to say.
Good to hear.
And to be fair, don't get me wrong, but they have to use it anyway because the pressure on the market is so high. So wherever they can get premium freights, I guess they will use the tools they're going to offer.
Sure.
And Katja, if I can add, I believe you've also mentioned that you've seen carriers themselves using AX4.
Correct. So that's true. So some of our carriers use it and I've seen it firsthand. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. This questioner is asking what requirements are needed from carriers just to participate in the use of this system.
Well, they need to agree to our terms and conditions. That's the first step. But that's the only one. So there's no other need. So they do not need to have a EDI infrastructure to connect or whatever. We just have really, they need to agree on our terms and conditions, and then we can set them up. And also the training, we do not really train them because the system is so easy to handle. We just send out a manual to them and we set them up in the system as with the master data, and then it's done and it works quite well. So there's no really something specific they have to look into it, or they need to have, okay, well, they need to have internet, right? Otherwise they cannot submit the RFQ. So, but that's the only thing.
I've got several questions here that I'm going to take them one at a time, but they all kind of circle around the same type of theme about your working with carriers and the like. And I'll start with this one. How long do the carriers have to quote on premium freight shipment? Because since, of course, time is critical.
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. That's individual set up by each requester. So we will have, let's say, road shipments that's more often more urgent than, let's say, for air shipments. And also the carriers, we know that the carriers also can give us a quicker offer on road than on air. So usually the offer is about between 1 and 2 or 3 hours. And on air freight, we need to give a wider range. They will have half a day. Sometimes they also can give, it depends how urgent the air freight shipment is, they might give a day till they can come back with a quote. It really depends, and it's individually, it really depends on the urgency of the shipment.
Do you incorporate reason codes for the premium freight shipments? And if so,
yes.
how many do you utilize globally?
Well, that's also a pretty good question. We also aligned on the reason codes. We tried, to be honest, to limit that we do not have hundreds of reason codes, because plants would like to have hundreds of reason codes.
Sure.
No, we limited. I think we have around 30 for the different, let's say, for suppliers late, production issues, and all these kind of things. So we also put it in different categories where that's showing up. And we also use that on our KPIs to follow up what are the most recent code that's popping up on the premium freights on a monthly basis.
And then finally, as the third of this related questions, is this approval process automatically moved through the approval levels electronically
Yes.
based upon SOP, standard authorization, and the dollar amount?
Yes, it is. So when the first approver approves it and it needs to follow, the second approver is getting, again, either the email or both, the email with the link and the notification on the mobile app. And so it's all automated.
Okay. Well, thank you both for those, and thank you, audience, for those excellent questions. I think we have one more here. No, I think that, I'm afraid we're going to have to break now, but we do have time for one final question. And I'm going to pose it to both of you, but I'm going to start with you, Hazim, and it is as follows. If you could fast forward 5 years from now, which is an eternity, the pace of technological innovation, what groundbreaking innovation or transformation do you believe will come out of this collaboration between TENNECO and Siemens? And what's the relevance of that to our audience? How should they be preparing for these innovations coming on down the road within their own for their own organizations?
Great question. So I would say as technology continues to advance, this topic of AI has become increasingly relevant. And since Siemens is a global technology company that's always looking to stay ahead of the curve, we've already been working on implementing AI within our digital logistics portfolio. Personally, my recommendation is as technology and advances continue to be made, we're going to be sharing them with TENNECO firsthand, but as other companies are going through their own digitalization journeys, I think it's very important to pick a reliable partner and embrace these technological advances, especially in supply chain, rather than shy away from them.
Well, Katja, why don't you share the wisdom of TENNECO that's gained through experience with the implementation of this solution? What information or advice can you give to companies who want to follow your lead, and what should we all be looking for 5 years from now in your estimation?
Oh, I believe it will be shaped by several key trends like digital transformation. Especially the usage of AI will help a lot to enhance the transparency and efficiency in supply chain. The supply chain must be more adaptable to disruptions by adopting more flexible models. I think a greater use of data analytics will be a key player in decision making, and therefore we will need systems that can provide the data as such. And this is AX4, right? And the time, I guess, starts now to doing this. So we can't wait another 5 years.
Time is now. People need to act. And this, of course, is a critical issue, the critical issue of premium freight, of special transports, of keeping your costs down at a time when such options are often needed, because who knows what's going to happen next and when the next supply chain disruption is going to come along. You have to have this type of solution in place in order to be ready for it. I want to thank you both, Katja Muenster and Hazim Nizam, for a great presentation on this AX4 platform. Great observations and advice for our audience. And I want to thank our audience, too, for your participation and for your great questions as well. Here is a white paper that you can check out for more information, very valuable additional info, the opportunity to enhance your supply chain knowledge and drive success in your organization. So check that out. It's on Control Tower. There's a QR code for you to scan if you have the time and the few seconds remaining. If not, don't worry about it. This information will be provided to all attendees when this presentation is over. So again, thanks, guys, very much for a great presentation. Audience as well. Everybody, have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bob.